This Year's Girl. While Buffy and the gang talk about looking for Adam without actually doing anything, Faith awakens from her coma.
We open with Buffy making a bed with Faith, accompanied by sad piano music, because she is dead. Right? Wait, was she dead? I don't even remember. I remember her getting driven away in the back of a truck.
Yeah, she ended up in a coma.
Right.
Buffy says she can't stay, and Faith says it's because little sis is coming, whatever that means.
Oh yeah, they never explained that, did they? And of course it's a dream, and it ends, but it does have a happy ending, because Buffy shoves a knife right into Faith's gut.
And we see that it was all in Faith's head while she's in her coma. In Xander's basement, he tells the others that he can't figure out how to repair Riley's electro gun.
Which really just looks like a paintball gun with some copper tubing glued to it.
And Willow suggests he hit random buttons on it, and surprisingly he says no. But then he also makes a typically annoying and out-of-place Xander joke.
Now, if it were called the Orgasminator, I'd be the first to try your basic button press approach.
Giles expresses concern about Buffy, and it amused me that it was because she had been doing her job for 3 days in a row.
Yeah, but without sleep.
I don't know. I think it was just because she was doing her job.
Well, that would be unusual enough. Buffy talks about how dangerous Adam is. Why couldn't she just use some of Xander's normal guns? Or just splash water on Adam, because he's a robot. And she says the initiative says Riley is fine, but she's worried about what they'll do to him.
Then we cut to Riley, who is also in a hospital bed in the initiative, and he gets up and he tells Idiot 1 that he wants to leave, but not why, and tensions rise even more when Idiot number 2 joins the conversation.
They tell him he shouldn't leave because they need to stay together to take care of Adam, but Riley just wants to get back to Buffy. Priorities.
Proving he is Idiot number 0. Faith is still dreaming about having a picnic with the mayor, who I never thought would show up again, even in a dream.
When Buffy suddenly comes by and kills him with Faith's knife.
In real life, Buffy is patrolling with Xander and Willow when she finds a demon all split between some trees. It was pretty gross. Buffy says it's Adam's doing, and he is studying demon biology, but I would think there would be less dramatic ways to do that.
Well, she says he's studying biology in general.
Again, there are less dramatic ways to do that.
She says she's going to break into the initiative again to get Riley out.
She tells Willow to hack into the initiative mainframe and shut down the security for 10 minutes, and if she can't do it online, then she should resort to magic. I would love to see how that's supposed to work.
She would just make the computers all spin around in the air and just slam in random directions. And while she's giving orders, Riley somehow limps all the way down the stairs without anyone noticing. I guess he really has been well trained. Xander jokingly asks if they put a chip in his brain, but that's not an outlandish possibility at this point, and it's right along the lines of what I would have been suspecting if I was there.
But they treat it as a joke, and all is forgiven between everybody. And Buffy says since Riley's there, whatever comes, they can handle it, which remains to be seen.
Which has already been proven wrong in the past. Faith dreams about running from knife-wielding Buffy and falling into an open grave. Buffy jumps down after her, and there are sounds of a fight. And then Faith Shawshanks herself back up, apparently having won. There's no way that it was not intentional that they were referencing the Shawshank Redemption, but it was a very out-of-place reference.
Faith crawled through 3 seasons of shit, came out clean on the other side. I don't know if you want to put that in there. That's not my best Morgan Freeman.
My friend Andy.
And after climbing out in her hospital room, she wakes up. And her hospital bed is in a pretty shitty room. So at first I thought it wasn't a hospital, but then she runs into a girl looking for the 3rd floor, so I guess it is really just a shitty hospital. Even when she goes out in the hall, it looks like a pretty junky hallway.
Yeah, I wondered why there were no people apparently in there, and nobody notices her wake up. Nobody gets any kind of alert. And the girl she was asking for the 3rd floor?
It looked like they were in an underground dungeon. Maybe next time go up the stairs, not down the stairs.
Faith says she has to get to the graduation ceremony, and the girl tells her that the school isn't even there anymore. So Faith channels Michael Biehn in trying to find out how long she's been out.
What day is it?
The date.
date's wrong.
February 25th.
Hey, Thursday. What year?
What year?
The girl finally tells her that a bunch of people died when the school was destroyed, including Mayor Elbrun.
And then, still channeling her Michael Biehn, she knocks the girl out and steals her clothes. Riley and Buffy are talking about Nothing, really. Riley's questioning what he's been doing with his life, apparently not thinking any of it was weird or odd at any point. And Buffy relates by saying she quit the Watchers Council, so she knows where he's coming from. Which I didn't even realize she considered herself a part of the Watchers Council, seeing as how she never did anything they said or even knew who they were until they kidnapped her and put her in a basement.
She says that he can leave the initiative and still fight demons on his own. And then she jokingly checks for chips in his head, which again is not something to joke about. Spike wasn't aware of his implant until it started affecting him.
And Riley's already been all whacked out from before.
Yeah.
Who's to say it's not from a chip in his head? And then Buffy decides to go look for the chip, but she oddly chooses to enter through his mouth to try and find it.
Okay. I was wondering where the hell you were going with that. Okay. Back in the hospital, the staff is trying to figure out what happened to Faith, and a doctor is berating a nurse whose shift hadn't even started when it happened. So it was a pretty realistic scene.
And again, if they're that concerned, why didn't they have someone monitoring her, even by a camera?
And a police detective even complains about the lack of security, given that Faith is wanted for murder. And the doctor says,
"There's no way that girl was gonna wake up.
Doctor.
This can't be happening."
"She's gone, you idiot. Obviously it happened." It was a really stupid thing to say.
Another dude walks in and says a girl was knocked out and her clothes were stolen, so they all go out looking for Faith, except for the nurse, who picks up a phone and says,
"It's happened. Send the team."
Faith eventually makes it to the high school, seeing it all destroyed. So this hospital is close enough to the high school that Faith could walk there?
Of course it is.
Because I was assuming because she woke up in a massive dungeon room that she wasn't in the regular Sunnydale hospital, but I guess she was.
Yeah, that's why it was safe when the high school exploded, because it was underground. Faith recreates the scene where Vampire Willow was walking around checking things out, as she sneaks up to Giles' house where everyone is discussing Adam. Riley says he can get back into the initiative base to see if Walsh left any useful info about Adam, when the phone rings and Giles says it's for Buffy.
And it's somebody from the hospital telling her that Faith is awake. So Buffy had the foresight to tell someone at the hospital, "Call me if Faith wakes up."
So Buffy was handling things more competently than the actual hospital staff. If that's what happened, I wondered why they were calling her, who was calling her, and they're calling it Giles's? Is that where they... But they're calling for Buffy.
Right, you would think they would call Joyce.
Yeah, so that whole thing was weird. Although I did wonder if the nurse was connected to the Watchers Council, maybe, because we don't know what that's about yet.
And then after this whole exchange, Riley, who is completely in the dark, asks, "Who is Faith?" And Buffy doesn't tell him the entire truth because... The next day, Buffy says she hasn't had any luck locating Faith, but it turns out Faith is right in front of her. I like to think that Faith kept running around to different bulletin boards, keeping her back to Buffy, hoping she would stop at that one. And it's good they were discussing Faith in that moment, so Faith had a comeback ready to go. What if they were talking about something else, like lunch? You know, Willow would say, "What are you having for lunch?" And Buffy would say, "Peanut butter and jelly. I hope it's extra chunky." She would have to have a comeback for whatever topic they were talking about.
And I thought it was weird that Buffy and Willow were talking about what Buffy said to Riley, and then Willow asks Buffy if she found anything on patrol. I would think that would be the first question.
Clearly, you do not understand the priorities of these characters.
Faith eggs Buffy on and makes fun of her for having moved on from Angel so quickly.
And Willow is kind of sneaking around Faith, and I thought she was going to shoot some magic at her or something, but she doesn't.
That would require intelligence and competence.
And a pencil. We've seen how she does magic with pencils and shoots them across the room.
Actually, she did kill a vampire with a pencil one time. I forgot all about that. That was a long time ago. They hear sirens approaching, and Faith attacks Buffy, which seemed like a pretty stupid move, given that she just came out of a coma, but apparently Slayers are immune to muscle atrophy.
I mean, you're saying that sarcastically, but that's probably true, because they heal so fast and stuff.
Yeah, whatever.
The show has defeated you yet again.
Either way, I would think she would be a little bit weaker compared to Buffy at this point.
She put on her power lipstick. She's good to go.
Oh, I forgot about that. And when the police arrive, Faith runs straight at them and knocks them aside. I would think maybe run in a different direction instead of risking things, but these characters are not that smart.
And then Buffy chases her.
But she takes forever to get started.
And she loses Faith right after she jumps over a wall. But on the other side of the wall is a wide open field. Faith is clearly just ducked down next to the wall. But Buffy is too dumb to just look down, and the scene changes.
And she could even have said, hey, did you see some weird girl just jump over this fence?
And since she runs directly into people, she probably kicked a couple of you in the face on her way.
Willow brings Tara along with her to look for Faith, which seems like a terrible idea.
And it seems like Willow told Tara everything about Faith, but Buffy hasn't told Riley everything about Faith. But Riley could actually help them, and Tara, as far as we've seen, can't really do anything to help them.
Well, I think all Buffy left out probably was how she stabbed her and tried to kill her.
Yeah, the important stuff.
Xander goes out searching at night with Giles when they hear a noise in an alley, and Xander powers up the blaster rifle while standing behind Giles and pointing it at his back.
Turns out to be Spike.
Who is smoking, even though vampires supposedly don't breathe. Have I said that before?
Possibly. They tell him about Faith, and Spike says as soon as he finds Faith, he will tell her where the gang is so she can kill them. Which I was happy that Spike said that, because the characters are stupid to treat Spike like he's their buddy.
And surprisingly, the scene ends with Xander finally having a moment of clarity.
We were dumb.
Back at the hospital, the team that the nurse was calling arrives in their black helicopter, and they're wearing all black clothes, and they have black briefcases.
Faith walks around and contemplates stealing some knives, but a passing police car scares her off. A demon confronts her, saying he has a remembrance from a friend, so she breaks his neck and picks up the package he had.
Another police car swings by, but Faith must have seen Looney Tunes, because the spotlight just misses her feet.
She breaks into an electronics store and watches the tape that was in the package. It contains a message from Mayor Elbrun saying that he's recording it while she's in a coma, and if she's watching, he must be dead and her days will be numbered.
Because there's no place in the world for her.
He tells her to open the box that was in the package, which contains a device that he says will allow her to go out with a bang.
Riley is begging Buffy to let him help find Faith, and she says he's not taking the situation seriously.
Because of his injuries.
And because he doesn't realize how dangerous Faith is.
Because she didn't tell him.
But then she gets mad at him for not knowing that.
And she says that Faith will come after the people she loves.
We cut to Faith showing up to Joyce's house, where she punches her in the face.
In a really awkward way.
She forces her to sit on the bed. I don't know why she didn't tie her up. And she keeps talking about how she and Joyce have been thrown away by Buffy because they don't have any more use.
She picks up a knife when Buffy suddenly busts in through the window and a big fight starts, while Joyce picks up the phone.
Because, again, her hands are not tied.
Buffy and Faith keep throwing physical and verbal jabs at each other as they wreck the house.
Meanwhile, Giles walks into his house to find the 3 team members waiting for him in the blackness, which matches their whole MO.
The police arrive at the Summers residence, and Faith grabs the gadget she got from Mayor Elbrun.
She attaches it to her hand, grabs Buffy's hand, and there's a big whooshing sound and bright orange lights.
But then it fades and everything seems fine. Buffy knocks out Faith and destroys the device as Joyce walks in, saying that whatever it was didn't work. The police knock on the door, and instead of going to answer it, they just stand there talking.
And when Joyce asks if Buffy's okay, she says,
5 by 5.
Which is what Faith says. That was not an intended cough. I actually...
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
This year's girl. Overall?
So Faith is awake. That's cool.
Is it?
I have a little sarcasm mark next to my sentence.
Okay.
Did they think Adam was not enough? He just showed up and started wrecking shit. They haven't even really had a legit confrontation yet. They spend a good chunk during the beginning of this episode talking about how serious a threat he is. They find that ripped up demon, and then Faith wakes up. I get that it's supposed to be double the trouble, but after Faith woke up, they didn't even talk about Adam anymore. It was all Faith. We didn't even see anyone from the initiative doing anything on the side, which would have been at least something. And now I doubt Adam will show up in the next episode too. I mean, why would he? We even brought in the team to deal with Faith, so now we have to figure out how they're tied in with Faith. It's all going to be about Faith. I was confused why Faith continued to walk around Sunnydale in public, even after she got her shit together. I get that she wants revenge, but you don't need to plan it in the middle of the town square. And every time she opened her mouth, I remembered how much I disliked all of her dialogue before. I get that the message was that things had changed around her, and she was the same, but it was too much. You'd think she'd have some new things to say, instead of just rehashing the dialogue from before. I think this might be the most serious we've seen Buffy in this entire show. Her repeatedly chastising Riley for not taking the situation seriously was laughable considering her entire character before this episode. If Buffy is actually this serious about her role from this point on, I will be very, very surprised and very, very impressed, but I don't see it happening. Part of me wants to believe that Buffy called Joyce to warn her about Faith ahead of time, but the fact that Joyce had to call the police after Buffy came in and got punched in the face leads me to believe that Buffy had not thought about Joyce until that moment. I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. I thought the mayor had just given Faith a bomb, which would have been cool. She could have just gone to Giles' house. I mean, she had no problem getting there. Just tossed a bomb through the window. And I imagine Faith will be extremely subtle in the next episode and not do anything to blatantly give away that she's not Buffy. Her clothing, makeup, and language choices will be exactly what Buffy would normally do, and not something that makes everybody constantly ask, "Are you okay? You don't seem like yourself." I wasn't a huge fan of Faith when she was around before, and she hasn't really done anything to change my mind so far. And the fact that we just kind of pushed Adam completely out of everything, even though he is actively out, ripping demons apart and displaying them. Modern art. I gave it a C.
I gave it a C-. Like you said, there was a lot of talk about Adam in the first half, but nobody actually did anything, and that was very disappointing. Adam still doesn't feel like the threat that everybody is making him out to be. And I'm hoping it turns out that he can do something else, or, I don't know, has some kind of demon powers or something that we haven't seen yet, because if it's just what it is, then I don't know, why don't they just shoot him a bunch?
Wait until he gets that upgrade via floppy disk.
Faith waking up and escaping so easily has some questions around it that I hope are answered in the next part. I'm curious to see who the people in the helicopter were, and what's going on with Giles, and what the point of apparently letting Faith go was, because I can't imagine how else she managed to get away like that, unless they really were just that incompetent at keeping watch over somebody who's in a coma like that. Her apparently switching bodies with Buffy is something that also reminded me of Willow in Doppelgangland, and I just hope that A, it doesn't end up being something tedious, where we're just waiting for them to resolve things, and B, I hope Faith uses the opportunity to insult the gang the way Spike did in that earlier episode when he was hanging around with Xander and Willow. It definitely sounds like she's going to try to bang Riley, with how much she kept talking about Riley when she was insulting Buffy.
And the fact that her entire character is based around sex.
Yeah. And speaking of Riley, what is the initiative doing? Are they tracking him? Do they even care anymore? Does any of that matter? I'm glad they addressed Buffy not having visited Joyce in so long, and it looks like she'll be part of the next episode as well, which is good. But this show really doesn't handle a lot of its subplots very well when it comes to, I don't know, making it make sense that these things are going on at the same time.
Or choosing to keep them in the show regularly.
Yeah. And what is the Watchers Council even doing now that they don't have a Slayer working for them? Is that going to come up next episode? I assume it will. I assume that's who those people were, but I don't know. I thought this episode relied way too much on viewer investment from earlier episodes and earlier seasons without really doing anything interesting in itself. And there were so many little things that didn't make much sense that we clearly are just not supposed to think about.
I would really like, at some point, when they do confront Adam, him to say it was so easy to take over everything because you guys weren't even trying to stop me for a month.
Yeah, I mean, Buffy's idea of patrolling is just walking around outside, waiting for something to pop out. That's like firefighters just driving around waiting till they see a house on fire. Like, there's better ways to do it. And this whole episode felt like set up for the next episode. So hopefully that payoff is worth it. But based on this episode, I doubt it.